Hi guys, my name's Jett and welcome back to the LeadFoot Racing YouTube channel. This video is here to explain in a little bit better detail what exactly we do and what our end goal is. So LeadFoot Racing is a business I started a few years back because I couldn't afford to race. I'm sure most of you are in the same boat, or were in the same boat, or know people that are in the same boat. Racing, well, everything costs money. Racing costs a lot of money. So a lot of people can't afford to race. So as I was going through college and I was getting my mechanical engineering degree, I kind of took a step back and said, why is racing so expensive? Yeah, I get that there's a lot of fancy components that you have to have, or know-how that you have to have, or whatever it is that you have to have, but in theory, it's a car, and it's a car driving around. Well, my small brain told me that if my professors are selling me something saying that I can put a satellite into space, then why can't I build something with four wheels that everybody can recognize? A car. So I set out and tried to do that exact thing. I started building a car. It was a terrible car. Maybe you'll see the frame someday. I still have it. It is terrible. But I built a car. In doing so, I learned to fabricate. I learned basic skills because I'm an engineer. They don't teach us that. So as I was going along with this project, I met a professor, told him what I was wanting to do, because as an engineer, you're taught how to make things. Well, you're taught how to design things, not actually fabricate them. But you're really not taught how to bring an idea to life. And to me, that's magic. It still is magic, but magic nonetheless. I told him. He said, "Oh, that's a great idea. Let me put you in contact with some people." Well, one thing led to another, and it was me starting LeadFoot Racing. Because there was such a positive, how do I say this? There was a positive welcoming of this idea that it needs to be done, that was why I kept pushing forward. It's not just me, and I figured that out pretty quickly. There were plenty of people, both small like me and big, in the automotive industry that all agreed racing's expensive. Does it need to be cheaper? Not necessarily. Not necessarily at all. But there needs to be an accessible point for the everyday person. So I set out and started designing the Little Dipper. The Little Dipper is LeadFoot Racing's flagship race car. It is completely custom, but it uses as many off-the-shelf components as possible. Off-the-shelf components don't need extra time and money to stress test and engineer. They're already made. They're already engineered. And they are easy to get a hold of. So, it's a custom tube chassis car. It weighs about 1,200 pounds. Well, I currently have a 2021 Little Dipper that I take around and race, and it's my test mule. It weighs 1,250 pounds wet with the engine. And so I say with the engine because it's a modular chassis. We use BMW components because I've always found that 90s BMWs are very reliable when it comes to hard components and very unreliable when it comes to electrical. That means you can buy the parts really affordably. And BMWs were popular in the 90s. So there's a lot of them. So it uses BMW components, and it's modular. And it's modular in the sense of you can pick the engine that you put into it. Now, I get asked this a lot. Oh, well, so can I put a K-Series in it? Not yet, unfortunately. How about an LS? Also not yet, unfortunately. The engine is mounted where the passenger would be. Have you ever had one of those passengers that won't shut up on the car ride and you're just like, man, I wish I hadn't brought you? Then you realize that it's your younger brother and there's nothing you can do about it besides piss off your parents if you didn't bring him? Well, this is the best passenger you could ever have. They sing a tremendous song of 12,000 RPM redlines. But motorcycle engines are very affordable and very plentiful. And there are other companies that do motorcycle powered race cars, but they typically center around one engine. And I didn't want to do that because that engine, after some time, becomes less affordable and more expensive. Take the Hayabusa, for example. Yes, we do have a Hayabusa option, but that's not necessarily the most affordable option. The engine itself, you could pick up for $2,000 to $5,000, depending on what extras come with it. The engine that I'm currently testing in the 2021 Little Dipper is a Kawasaki ZZR 1200. It makes 165 horsepower. Torque figures I'm a little shaky on. I can't quite remember those. I've heard that it's 121. That's where it pops up a lot. It doesn't seem quite right to me. I've also heard it's around 80 foot-pounds of torque. Yeah, those are a little lower than the Hayabusa, but that engine cost me $500, and that was in a running bike. So it's a little more affordable. If I break it, I can buy 4 of those before I buy one Hayabusa. Yeah, aftermarket support might not be the best for it, but that's okay. It's not about changing the engine to be the pinnacle of the pinnacle for that. It's about getting out there and having fun. And if you get to a point where you need more power, you can get a different engine. It still costs less than a Hayabusa, or a built Hayabusa, or a built turbo Hayabusa. But I'm getting off topic. It's a tubular chassis car, uses BMW suspension components, and it has a motorcycle powertrain. That means you get a sequential gearbox. My car has a 6-speed sequential gearbox, and it revs to 12,000 RPM. What car would you want to actually do that? Most people don't have that choice because there's not many cars that do that. But let's say you've picked out a car and you're like, oh, I want more power. Well, I can start out when I bought the car, I could have had this bike engine. That's a CBR 600. 85 to 110 horsepower depending on which year you pick. We have options for those. There's also a CBR 929, ZX12R, ZX14R, and then this is just another ZX12R. I got a couple of those. And here on the engine hoist, I don't know if you've seen it in the background, is an R1. Here's an engine that I took out of the car. It's a CBR engine as well. You can make the car fit your personality and your ability. So if you're concerned about racing and you're like, oh, I'm not sure, I just want to get out there, learn, you can easily buy the $200 CBR off your neighbor that he hasn't driven in 5 years and put that engine in the car, and it'll work just fine. And you'll have a great time doing it. That CBR engine that I took out made 85 horsepower, it's an 87, so like 35 years ago, and it's carbureted. I was able to keep up with Golf GTIs and Subaru STIs on the autocross course on 5-year-old all-season tires. So it's not about having the most powerful when you start. It's about getting out there and learning. Now that you've gotten your Honda CBR 600 fix and you really like racing, you want to be competitive, you can pay $500, double your horsepower, still have a sequential gearbox, still weigh roughly the same. Yes, the bigger engine weighed about 50 pounds more. But 50 pounds, twice the power, now you're able to keep up on a track with most of the cars that you're out there with. The goal of LeadFoot Racing and the Little Dipper is to create a great starting and expansion point for people to get into racing. You don't have to have a carbon fiber monocoque car. You don't have to have paddle shifters. We will have that option though, so stay tuned. But you don't need all of this fancy stuff. And the Little Dipper is out to show people that you don't. Oh, and I've glossed over this because I like to save it for the end. Is the price. Most of the time when you pick race cars and you think of the price, you have a budget and you're like, okay, well, this is what I'm okay to spend. This is what I'm okay to spend. For me, Everything is always too expensive. Does it make sense? Yes. Do I understand the costs? Yes. That's neither here nor there. I usually respect the companies that make the products as well. But my goal for the Little Dipper is to make it as affordable as possible. So that means even the price that it's at right now is too high. I want it to be as affordable as possible. So that means driving the price down. That's what this machine is for. This machine can pump out 3 cars a day, which normally would take me a week to do for 1 car. So the price for the Little Dipper right now is $15,000, and that's kit. So that kit gets you everything you need to get started racing besides an engine. The engine's up to you. You just tell us which engine you want to use, and we send the hardware that go with that engine. You want an R1? We'll send the adapters, drive shafts, engine cradles, everything you need. You want a CBR 600? Same thing. We want people to get out and get racing. You don't need all of this fancy stuff. If you want to add things on later, more than happy. We have optional extras that we're working on to be available for you, like a body. You don't have to have a body to race in most racing leagues. I race in SCCA a lot. You don't need a comp license for that. I don't need a body. I didn't have a body on my first competition day. Nobody cared. They thought it was cool that I was out there. I got to talk to people with multi-million-dollar race programs, and their owner showed up in a 458, Ferrari 458. They didn't care that I had probably one of the cheapest cars there, or that it might have appeared home built. They just cared that I was there, and they thought it was super cool that I was there, and it was something different. And that's what I want people to understand. The racing community is super warm and welcoming. You just have to get out there and experience it. So the car starts at $15,000, and that gets you everything besides the engine. And like I said, we're working on optional extras, turbo kits, body kits, extra like aero kits, aero packages, whatever it is, it's going to be an optional extra. The goal is to, if you want to have a turnkey car, well, we also offer kits that you can have us build or me build for you. It's a little extra of a price. But my goal is to have if you want a fully built car, turnkey, ready to go, every optional extra, you can do that and still save money. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please share, because I want to find as many people that want to get into racing, that have a passion like I do, and want to get behind this project as much as I am behind it. I mean, this is my full-time job. But just please like, share, subscribe, comment if you think it's a good idea, if you think it's a bad idea. I mean, comments are comments. Take them with a grain of salt, but I also try to read all the comments, and there's always valuable information in them. So, thank you so much. Don't forget to check out www.lead-footracing.com. They'll be linked below. If you want to pick up some merch, try to help us out. We make a little bit of money on the merch. We also use our CNC tube cutter, and we sell weld kits. So if you're getting into fabricating, or you're in fabricating, have a new machine, want to dial it in for tube, we sell basic weld kits. So that way you can just crank them out, dial in your settings, dial in your abilities. Every dollar that you spend, even if it's not a car, goes to greatly help fund bringing the price of racing down. Thank you guys so much, and have a great day.